Today, I'm going to look at another episode in the series Before You Buy, where I take new games and discuss whether it makes sense to play them. This time it's Samson. The game is from Liquid Sword Studio, which is a new studio, but it's made up of people who worked on games like Just Cause or Mad Max. And just because of that, I wanted to try this game out because the premise sounds really good. At first glance, it might look like GTA, and a lot of people see it that way, but the reality is a bit different. Samson is more of a smaller, more focused game. It reminds me of older games like Driver, where it's mainly about driving, chases and battles, but without that classic open world chaos full of side activities. It's single player, there's a certain amount of freedom in the missions, but at the same time it's quite straightforward and focused. And this is exactly the type of game I usually enjoy. But the problem is that, in my opinion, Samson didn't finish what he started. I feel like the game has a good idea, but the execution itself seems unfinished. It's repetitive, at times quite clunky, and overall not as strong as it could be. I'm not saying it's not fun, but it's not a game I would recommend to everyone without hesitation. One of the first things that helps the game is its price. It's not a full edited game, it costs around $25, and it's not extremely long either. And I respect that. It knows what it wants to be, and it's priced accordingly. Moreover, the game is visually striking. The atmosphere of a grimy 1990s city works really well, and this style alone gives it its own identity. The gameplay is divided into two parts, combat and driving. I'll start with the combat. Most of the time I fight in close quarters. I use my fists, sometimes an improvised weapon like a pipe, a bottle, or anything I can find. I have light attacks, heavy attacks I can dodge, I can block, and when I weaken an enemy I can finish them off with a finisher. I can also grab enemies and throw them into the environment, like into walls, crates or other objects. And on paper that sounds really good, and sometimes it even works well. When it works out, it's satisfying. For example, when I throw someone into the environment and then knock them down with a single blow. But the problem is, it doesn't always work like that. Once I get used to the system, it starts to get really repetitive. I start spamming attacks, sometimes I dodge, sometimes I do a finisher, and I just keep doing the same thing over and over. And that's a shame because the system has potential. Another problem is the technical execution. The combat feels quite rough, the animations are choppy, enemies behave strangely, sometimes they just stand there, sometimes they get stuck, sometimes they don't react at all. Sometimes I feel like the character doesn't do exactly what I want. The camera is very close, the lock-on system isn't entirely accurate, and as a result the combat doesn't feel as good as it could. So yeah, when it works it's fine, but most of the time it feels rather unfinished and repetitive. The driving is a bit better. I have a muscle car that handles well, you can drift with it, it has a boost, and overall it feels pretty fast. I also like the little details, like being able to hide from the police, turn off the engine, and wait until they stop looking for me. There are also a few details like downshifting while driving or being able to crash into cars during chases. These little things give the driving its character. I can't just take any car from the street, but I can steal parked cars that fit the 90s style. There aren't many of them, but they work. And even if I destroy my car and take another one, it's still playable. Overall, the driving feels better than the combat, but even here it's not without issues. Sometimes the chases don't work perfectly. The car can get stuck on little things that I would normally just drive over. Sometimes I run into an object that looks like it should be passable, but it isn't. And at that moment, I come to a complete stop, which totally kills the pace. And that's a shame because when it works, the chases are fun. Another important thing is the game's core system. Each day I have a limited number of actions. I can choose missions on the map and decide what to do. At the end of the day, I have to pay off a debt, and that debt gradually increases. If I don't pay it, they start punishing me. This is an interesting idea. It forces me to think about which missions are worth it, whether I should risk a harder mission for more money or play it safe. The problem is that the missions are very repetitive. Very quickly, I get the feeling that I'm always doing the same thing. Fights, chases, deliveries, searching for things, and then over and over again. Even though the missions look different, in the end they're quite similar, and that becomes a problem pretty quickly. I felt like I had seen most of the content after just a few hours, and that's not a good sign. There is some slight progression, later missions give you more money, and occasionally new elements are added, but it's not enough. I still feel like I'm stuck in the same loop over and over, and that's holding the game back. There's also a simple skill system. I gain experience, level up, and unlock small bonuses. More health, more strength, better abilities. It works. It's nothing complicated, but it motivates me to keep going. As for the story, it's rather weak. There's a basic framework, Debt problems, a criminal environment, but it didn't really draw me in. It feels pretty cliched and forgettable. On the other hand, the world itself works well. The city has atmosphere, it feels dirty, depressing, and has its own style. And I like that. So to sum it up, Samson has a good foundation, it has style, a few interesting ideas, but it would need more time to be finished, more content, more variety, and fewer technical issues. For that price, I think it will suit some people, but it's important to know what you're getting into, because after a few hours, repetitiveness can set in. And that's its biggest problem. So is Samson worth it? It depends. If you want a smaller, simple game with atmosphere and you don't mind repetition, you can find some fun in it. But if you're expecting something more sophisticated, it might disappoint you. Personally, I expected a bit more from it, but at the same time, I appreciate what the game is trying to be. And now I'm interested in your opinion. Have you tried this game, or were you expecting something completely different from it? Let me know in the comments below.